Mushroom Sauce TV.
What up, what up? Welcome back to the Mushroom Sauce TV channel. I'm your host, Sauce B, and today's episode is about going spawn to bulk. And what spawn to bulk is basically just mixing your fully colonized grain spawn with your nutritious substrate. So let's get started. But before we continue, don't forget to pound the subscribe, like, and notification bell. That way you can get all the hottest new content from your boy. So, on the first episode, I was showing you guys how to inoculate grains to make grain spawn. And if you remember, I spoke about how I made that bag of grains myself. Well, I didn't do too well for my first time. So I had some hiccups and I'm gonna show you what I did wrong. Here we go. So as you can see, we have 3 separate bags of grains. At the time when I inoculated these bags, I inoculated 3 separate bags because I follow a lot of people who actually know how to grow mushrooms. Shout out to the rookie mycologist. He actually was the one that motivated me to start doing this channel. So you guys should check him out. He's dope. But anyway, one of the things he said on one of his videos is that he likes to speed up his process as he's learning how to grow mushrooms. And so I took that advice and ran with it. That's why I decided to just go ahead and inoculate 3 separate bags. This bag you see in front of you right now is the bag that I made, which was on the first video. What you can tell is that there's a lot of moisture in the bag, and that is because I did not thoroughly dry the grains before I put it in the bag. So basically the mycelium stopped growing throughout the bag. This next bag that I'm showing you right now, I over dried it. And so it didn't even get off the ground, as you can see. So yeah, so there's a delicate balance and a delicate dance you have when you're trying to make grains. So you gotta have moisture in it, but not too much moisture, but not dried out. And this third bag here was one that I had ordered online, and I'll give you guys where I ordered it from Midwest Grow Kits. And they clearly know what they're doing because my mushroom mycelium colonized throughout the grains perfectly. There was no issues, no contamination, no anything. And I will also say that they're relatively inexpensive because I'm showing you guys how to grow mushrooms on a budget. Now that we're ready to move on to the next step, I'm going to show you all the material in which you're going to need in order to go through the process. We have the 70% isopropyl alcohol, we have our gloves, we have our plant trays, we have our fully colonized grain spawn. Right next to the grain spawns, we also have 2 bags of substrate. One is 3 pounds, the other one is 5 pounds. The 3-pound bag is what we're gonna go spawn the bulk inside the trays. The 5-pound bag is what we're gonna use to go spawn the bulk inside the bag. Alongside it is a heat sealer, which I'll be using to seal the 5-pound bag. So now that we got all of that out the way, now we can begin the process. As usual, we start by first spraying our hands in all the things that we're going to be using with the 70% isopropyl alcohol. And for those who don't know why, it is because we want to make sure everything is fully sterilized before we begin the process to eliminate the possibility of contamination. And even the surface area of the table was wiped down earlier. So now I'm wiping down the bag, making sure everything is good. Now it's time for breaking down of the colonized grain spawn. Now the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure each and every single grain you see inside there that is colonized acts as an inoculation point. Each individual grain is kind of like a seed when planting into a soil. So you really want to break it up well. From top to bottom, from each side, I'm feeling to see if there's clumps in there to break it down. And now for the main event. As I'm introducing the plant tray, I would be remiss to tell you that I do have on a surgical mask. And the reason for this is because I've read where people have gotten really sick from inhaling contaminant spores. And because we don't know for sure if there's contamination in this bag, I have to be cautious. So as I'm preparing to pour the substrate into the plant tray, I can feel around and I feel it's pretty lumpy inside of there. So I'm trying to break it down while it's in the bag before I pour in there. But keep in mind, this is the very bag that I sterilized back in episode 2. So it's been a while. And as you can see, as I'm pouring the substrate into the plant tray, you see how lumpy it is? Yeah, I gotta break this down and smooth it out. And now that I'm done with that, I'm ready to introduce my colonized grain spawn. So as I begin to open the bag, I'm trying to smell to see if I smell anything foul. When opening a grain spawn, you want to smell an earthy mushroom smell to the grain spawn. From what I know, that's a good sign. If you smell either a sweet or in most cases a sour odor, it is more than likely signs of contamination. So I'm pretty excited at this point because all I smell is that earthy mushroom smell. And you're probably wondering, how much grain spawn am I putting into the substrate? When I researched what a proper ratio of grain spawn to substrate was, I read anywhere between 1 to 2 to 1 to 4. That means for every 1 pound of grain spawn, you should add in 2 pounds of substrate. Well, since I'm new to this, I figured I would just do 1 to 3 pound ratio. I already put at least half of the substrate in there, so I'm guessing that I'm going to be mixing in a pound of my own grain spawn. Now that I'm done mixing everything in, I'm just kind of patting it down to make sure it is fully even throughout the whole pan. And as you can see, it is flat. Now I'm going to go ahead and put what I would consider my casing layer of the substrate. People have been saying to do cocoa coir, but I don't have access to that right now, so I'm just going to add my substrate. And because this substrate is muck soda top soil, why add anything else? You know what I mean? But so I'm just trying to right now just smooth things over, pat everything down, and make sure everything is cool and ready to go. And then as I'm getting closer and closer, you can see everything is looking really, really good. And as you can see, I've placed the closure lid on top of the plant tray. This closure lid has holes at the top to increase or decrease humidity and airflow. While I'm waiting for the substrate to be fully colonized, or at least 90% colonized, the holes will be fully covered until we move into fruiting conditions. Now we're moving on to doing spawn to bulk in the 5-pound substrate bag. I wanted to try different variations to see which kind of grow works better, whether it be in the tray or in the bag. So that's why I decided to do it like this. What we have is we have about 2 pounds of grain spawns left, and we have 5 pounds of substrate left. So the 1 to 3 ratio wouldn't apply here. However, there's still enough substrate in the bag for the mycelium to work its way through and for there to be a pretty healthy growth, because what we want is a good, strong first flush. I'm pouring the rest of the spawn into the substrate, and I'm hitting the top of the bag so all of the substrate empties out. All right, now we're at the home stretch, and it's time to seal the bag. This device in front of you is called a heat sealer. I purchased it from Uline. I will say this, although this channel is supposed to be for growing mushroom on a budget, this heat sealer was not cheap. I'm just gonna be honest with you. So, but there are heat sealers out there that are much cheaper, but I ordered it from Uline based on the fact that I've had a relationship with them for a few years now. So what you want to do first is make sure all the air is out of the bag. Next, you want to line it up evenly at the top. That's where you're going to seal the bag. Oh, and before I forget, I have the heat setting set at 7 because of the thickness of the bag. Because if you don't seal the bag properly, you will have an entry point for contaminants to enter the bag. And we know that's a no-no. So after I sealed it, I'm now checking to see if there's any entry points for contaminants. So it looks like everything is sealed up, and now we're ready to go ahead and combine the substrate with the grain spawn. All right, guys, this is the finale. This is where I'm gonna mix the grain spawn in with the substrate. So I'm trying to break up everything, mix up everything, and make sure every single grain is at every point of the bag. So you want to grab it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, move it all around. You do the hokey pokey and you turn your I know that was corny, but still, you get the point. The point is to make sure that every single grain is spread out amongst the bag. That way it leads for faster colonization and then you can be fruiting a lot faster. Look guys, look how beautiful this thing looks. You see grains at the bottom, grains at the top, grains in the side, grains in the middle. It's pretty much it. Until next time folks, peace. See y'all later.